Hello everyone and welcome to the Moriah Nightly News on this Friday evening. And from the nation to Moriah, here are the headlines that matter on this weekend edition. The Iran war is in an indefinite ceasefire as we close the week. A rather rocky and tentative one. It does not appear that it will last, and that's again my opinion. So it is at best shaky. The naval blockade is in full effect, and all of our weekend or end of week sources that we use, both on the national level and here at home, have been published or come out. The one that we use that's of value for us on the national level is a Messianic World Update. They are a Messianic Jewish ministry that publishes a weekly news program that helps us understand a little bit from a biblical perspective what's going on in the world, and of course the Times of Thai here at home. So what seems clear from their commentary and what we're seeing is of course the noise in the media that those on the left are looking for any sign of failure or defeat, and quite honestly, and this is shying away from reporting for a second here, the fact that anyone would want America to fail is shameful and a disgrace to this nation. So with that being said, the U.S. Navy is doing a heck of a job enforcing this blockade. And this operation has gone well beyond the Strait of Hormuz and even Iran. Now, one of the things I do want to note that this blockade is not just the Strait of Hormuz, it is any Iranian port. They have effectively cut off Iran from the global market at the expense of $400 million a day, which we have reported in the past, and that will have ripple effects into Iran's military. And of course it's important because if your military is not getting paid, your troops are unhappy, and the hope is they'll eventually walk off the job. Now, beyond the Strait of Hormuz, the Shadow Fleet that we had reported on earlier in the week, the Navy has begun to seize a couple of those vessels. There was at least one or two that had been reported on earlier this week, and the Navy has successfully done that with the use of the Navy and the Marines in taking those, overtaking them. And these Shadow Fleet, and it's up to 500 of these that are in operation, that they evade international law. So for all the talk about, is international law being upheld? Well, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians are using were in the past for the last decade or so many years using these ships to evade international law, transporting oil, and in this case oil, and this was going to places like China and Russia and places like that. And now the U.S. Navy has shown that they are quite capable of hunting down these ships and overtaking them. And that will be interesting to see in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever, how that all plays out with not only Iran, but the rest of our adversaries as well. Because I would guarantee you that China has taken notice of what the U.S. military is capable of doing, and we have not seen in this conflict so far the full force of the U.S. military, or even the Air Force at this point, in this conflict. The Chinese have been, and this was quite a concern to Pentagon officials and military planners and strategists, that the Chinese were taking and through satellite images feeding intelligence to the Iranians as to U.S. military movements and things like that, which would almost seem like a conflict of interest for the Chinese, given that they're so interested in opening the strait. But we know that they have ulterior motives as well, which I don't really have the time on here to get into. But if you've been a student of foreign policy, as I have for the last decade or so, China is not a friend of the United States. This past week, the U.S. Navy Secretary was fired by the Department of Defense, John Phelan. He was let go, and from what I could tell from the Wall Street Journal's reporting on that, it appears to be tension over following the chain of command. He bypassed Hegseth's authority to go directly to Trump with plans for new battleships in the Navy, and there was some concern from Pentagon officials and whatnot over letting him go right now during the Navy's deployment, with such a strong amount of deployment. But so far the transition appears to be smooth, and so that'll be an interesting development to follow there. So this ceasefire is indefinite. They have not, as we reported earlier this week, the ceasefire was given an indefinite timeline. There's no timeline that is that the president is holding himself or negotiators to. I did not write it down here, but I did see that the Israel-Lebanon agreement, they agreed to another 3 weeks to reach a long-term deal there, and the president is looking at hosting them at the White House again sometime soon. So that is an ongoing development in that arena. Hezbollah had continued to throw drones and other projectiles at Israeli settlements in the region there. And it does seem to me, in my opinion, that there will be another bombing campaign in Iran at some point. To what extent, I could not say. There has not been the use of heavy firepower like B-52s, B-29s, anything like that, with the heavy bunker buster bombs that we have seen. Not too many of those that would effectively go in and clear out some more those heavy-duty stockpile areas that were, as they were described, are basically areas where they could store weapons in the future. One of the things I do want to highlight is the growing tension within Iran between the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military, and civilian leadership, and that is what appears to be the holdup that the president is waiting for, is to see who would he negotiate with and how this would play out in a change of leadership, change of structure for Iran in terms of that. The IRGC obviously has all the weapons, but of course, if you've been following this in recent weeks, months, possibly years, there has been a recent civilian uprising within Iran, and the hope has been that that would oust the more radical wing of the government from power. It's just that the challenge is that those people that are radicalized have the weapons at their disposal, so it's a matter of taking them out. And Israel has that capability. They're quite good at taking out people in leadership with their intelligence agencies, even rivaling the CIA. And so that's why Israel, of course, is the top ally in the region and should be the top ally in the region. Of course, there are calls on Capitol Hill at this point in time, mainly from Democrats, to cut any and all funding, militarily or economically, to Israel, and which is not a good idea in terms of what we get out of it, in terms of having an ally, a partner in the region, because we don't have another. We don't, even from a geopolitical standpoint, there is no other ally in the region like Israel, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Egypt, or I mean, if you look, we were in Afghanistan and Iraq for 20 years. There's no one there that would represent our interests in that area as Israel has done since 1948. And now again, I don't want to go too deeply on that because I would be here all night talking about why that's strategically important. But just the fact that we're having this conversation is, to me, ridiculous. And so that's going on. There are reports also that Hamas is trying to be a little bit sneaky with the distraction in Iran and with Hezbollah. So we'll be looking at that. And this is just my opinion going off of this, but that people in our own nation, and really in government, I would say more so, running for office in some cases with the midterms coming up, are more concerned with backing a state sponsor of terror than supporting its removal from the world stage. And I never thought in my lifetime that I would ever see that happen, and it's appalling, to say the least. Now, regardless of that, those Democrats will have an uphill battle, and the Republicans as well, for that matter, given the polling numbers, which are showing very disparaging numbers. This was a real approval poll from that the Wall Street Journal reported on this week, that basically showing the overwhelming majority of Americans don't approve of either party, and leaning slightly more to a disapproval of Democrats than Republicans. But across the board, there is a lack of interest in the political process. About 50% don't agree with the war in Iran at all, and I would credit the media machine for that, spitting out all of this propaganda from the left. But that's my opinion, and you're free to disagree with that. And another headline that caught my attention on the foreign policy front is that $100 billion was given by the EU to the Ukraine to help in their security and their fight against Russia, narrowly passing by the looks of it. And I was surprised that nations like France, Germany, and Italy seemed to be in opposition to that, and that it seemed to be that the opposition was on both the left and the right in their governments, respectively. So that, to me, was very surprising, that opposition would be present for that, for that money on both sides of the political aisle. And not that I'm as familiar with the political state of Europe, as I am here, but that just seemed kind of surprising to me in some respects. On the state level, one of the big headline appears to be the budget. The state budget has been held up for weeks, and there was another vote. I want to say this was late last week, because this USA Today article came out on Monday, saying that there was another vote to pass basically stopgap funding to keep the state budget, the state government open. But the money that they're spending to basically on these measures is about $18 million. If you add up the $5.1 billion on the most recent one on top of 12.6, you're looking at about $17.7 million billion to that's just in stopgap funding. So without any long-term clear spending plan for New York State, and the issues holding that up would mention the climate law, immigration issues, changes to the state pension system. Those are just some of the things that are holding that budget up. There were concerns for the school system as to what they would do for 2-hour delays, snow days, things like that, if they would have any. I don't know if they would have any at this point in time, depending on how that all fell, or if that was, I don't know if that was for negotiations for next year. The article didn't seem clear on that. But interesting to see how your tax dollars are at work in New York State, and how poor the political process is for those that get elected at the state level in a democratically run state. And that's, again, my opinion, but shows how much of a poor job the governor and most of the Democratic leadership does in this state. And if you want proof of that, just look at the local economy and following to see the proof is in the pudding. On the local level, the Elizabethtown Community Hospital here in up in Elizabethtown had 4 new practitioners on staff this week, or it was announced this week. Janine Baru, she's a family nurse practitioner. Jeffrey Klotz, Lydia, and I cannot pronounce these last names, Lydia Wurzfeld, and Lindsay I think that's Wildhelm. And Jeffrey Klotz is an MD, so he's an actual medical doctor. The others are basically either a family nurse practitioner or a nurse practitioner or a doctor of basically physician's health or something like that. So they're working under a medical doctor, and so that'll be good for the Elizabethtown Community Hospital to have some more professional care and quality care up there in a rural area like ours. There was a good article in the Sun about Mountain Lake Services and some of the things going on there with the residents, getting them out into the community, getting them involved in helping them to develop skills needed for long-term quality of life, helping them do community service. And so they noted that they have been a lot more visible around town in the area, which is very good, and very good for them mentally, emotionally, and socially as well. So I thought that was a very good story in otherwise dark days. Last night we were at the Old Mine, or the Old Miners Tavern, I should say. It is under a new name and new ownership, or has been since 2023, for Dan Steck's visit to Moriah. There were about 30 to 40 people on hand for that event, for that political fundraiser, and a lot of local leadership and dignitaries were on hand as well. A lot of local business folks there, and it was a good time for the community as well. Very positive reception there, and so we wish Dan well on his endeavors in Albany. The Thai Little League celebrates their 75th anniversary this weekend. There are a lot of festivities going on for that. They held some opening ceremonies tonight, it looked like. And then there are a bunch of family-related activities like cornhole and things like that going on this weekend. And it looked like the Thai Conderoga Area Chamber of Commerce had been working to put that on. This past Monday, I believe it was Monday, we had reported that story about the Ticonderoga Firehouse and what's going on there. There was an in-depth report on that from the Times of Thai, talking about some of the history of the firehouse and what the community is concerned about on that, much of which we reported about on Monday. But it looks like the listening session that was held that night was well attended, that the community was very vocal, and of course the number one concern for the residents of Ticonderoga is what that will do for area taxes in raising assessments and property taxes and things like that. The current proposal is $5 million less than the one that was voted on last fall. So that is a positive in that cost-saving measure there. But the vote is slated for this coming Monday, April 28th, from noon to 9 p.m., and that's at the current firehouse down on Mount Calm Street. So if you are a Ticonderoga resident, do get out and vote, and really vote anyway, regardless of whether you agree with any of the opinions I've shared on this broadcast, or any of the opinions that anyone has. Do get out and vote and partake in the political process. That if you have a problem with what's going on, let your voice be heard. That's honestly the best thing you can do, and that's the beauty of America, is living in a country where the political process is open to we the people, and not a select few. So this weekend, as it is Friday, church will be happening around the region. Of course, on the national level, tonight was the final night of the America Reads the Bible event going on for the America 250 celebration. But more locally, of course, the Moriah United Methodist Church will meet at 9 a.m. This is the final Sunday there before they will head down to the Presbyterian Church next weekend when we head into the month of May. St. Patrick's Church Mass will be at 11 a.m. With Father Joe Giroux as the presider there. I did not mention that's, of course, Reverend Ken Parker is in the Methodist Church there. Cornerstone Alliance in Ticonderoga meets at 10:30 a.m. Lakeside Regional Church at 10 a.m. out in Hague. St. Mary's Church at 9:30 a.m. in Ticonderoga. And then Ticonderoga Assemblies of God at 10:30 a.m., just to name a few here in our region. That, of course, is not all. I do know that the Church of the Cross, the Episcopal Church, they meet much earlier, and I did not write them down here. They meet earlier. There's the Ticonderoga Baptist Church. So you have a large array, and you have the Ticonderoga Methodist as well, so you have a large array of denominations or abominations, depending on your perspective, that you could go to for church this weekend. And so with that, that is the Moriah Nightly News for this week, this Friday night edition, coming to you a little bit late due to my social life and due to some technology issues getting this thing up and going. And I do hope to find out more coverage on some of the town board meetings that have been happening. It's just a matter of sitting down and sitting through some of the footage that was taken and put online. And I do want to thank you for all of the local support, both in Moriah and in the surrounding Ticonderoga region. And I was happy to hear at the Old Miners Tavern last night some of the local support from Tom Skazafava and Matt Brassard, Supervisor Brassard, and some of the others in our local leadership as well. And thank you to all of you who watch and support us, and do continue to like, subscribe, share the content as much as you like, because that pushes our algorithm, or whatever you want to call it, and Facebook and YouTube note that as much as possible. Eventually, we hope to be live streaming these broadcasts onto Facebook, which is where most of our audience is anyway, and that will help us out a lot, because we will be able to be on there in real time with the audience, hopefully at some point in the future. And so a lot more coming down, hopefully the opportunity to do interviews, more local history stuff, and far more in the future. So thank you, stay tuned, and good night.